I started my agency when I was 20 years old with 0 staff. By the age of 22, I hired my first 2 team members and we had a team of 3. By the age of 23, I hired 6 team members and plus me, so we had a team of 7. By 24, we got up to 20 plus staff. By 25, we went back down to 14 team members, and between 25 to 27, we hovered around 12 to 14 staff before I then sold the agency. In today's video, dude, I just want to show you the best way to build your dream team, how to set targets, who to hire first, how to look at pod structures. We're going to talk about everything. I'm really excited to get into it. We're also pulling out to my favorite coffee spot, which is Blackboard Coffee in Varsity Lakes. If you have not tried the coffee here, it's thefrickinbomb.com. Thank you very much, appreciate it. You too. See this? This is so yum. This is my favorite thing in the mornings. I think I have a problem. I think sometimes. Yeah, man. Listen, I put a story up on my Instagram and I asked people, is it bad if you Uber Eats a coffee? Because like, I love Blackboard so much that I'm willing to pay like, what is it, like 10 bucks for it to come out plus the coffee. So it's like $16. And I said, is it worth me not investing my time to drive all the way to Blackboard, which would probably take me like drive out there, wait, and then come back home. It's gonna be like 25 minutes. Should I just Uber Eats it? And I had like 14 people vote on it and it was 7 and 7. And like all of my agency guys were all like, yeah, 100% Uber Eats it. And then all of like my actual friends were like, you're a prick, you know, just go down and drive. I was talking to one of my best mates the other week and he was saying something to me that really rung true, which is that everybody has their own perception of reality. And like what I'm about to tell you guys today, you know, building a team, I'm only gonna give you advice off the back of my perception of what reality is, which is I've built a team, I made a bunch of mistakes, and I'm gonna talk about them and then the things that I learned to make sure you build a good team. But that's not the only way that you can build a team. And I get it all the time, like I'm a coach and people ask me, how do you do this specific thing? And I'm like, look, I can kind of only tell you that this is what worked for me. And if it's worked for other people, then it's a good sign that it can work for you. But you should take every piece of advice with a grain of salt. Like even today, like what I'm about to run you through, it's not the Holy Grail, the Bible of, you know, it's not the gospel. So if someone's been able to build a completely remote team, they're gonna tell you that that's like the best way to do it. If someone's done it locally, they're gonna tell you that that's the best way to do it. Why? It's because we don't know anything else. Like, and I just think it's sometimes when you are giving advice, it's like almost arrogant to say that, you know, this is the way.
This is the way.
It's like you haven't tried every way there possibly is. So how can you say definitively that that is the way?
This is the way.
It's not the way.
This is the way.
It's a way. So I'm going to show you a way on how to build a marketing team. And don't take it for gospel. Just take the best parts of it and then try apply it to you. I almost spilled my freaking coffee. We'll be back at Blackboard in an instant. Wow.
Wow.
I think it's funny that we've just been able to stumble across this like quiet sanctuary with like swans and trees, but it's shaded and it's outside. I feel like it was made for us. Okay, let's talk about the 3 biggest struggles that marketing agencies typically deal with when it comes to building their team. The first thing is they're not sure who to hire first. And I'm gonna show you the roles that have helped a lot of agency owners out in terms of getting back their time and what those key roles were, as well as that first pod that we wanna be building. Pods are how we can measure out as accurately as possible profits, as well as setting clear targets and things like that. So we're gonna talk about who to hire first. It kind of brings us to the second point, which is ensuring that we have team profitability. So many agencies seriously struggle with this. I think it's just like a know-how thing. They don't set any targets around revenue and they don't have any targets around prices, and they have no idea what a margin rate should look like. So we're going to talk about gross profit margins today and setting some pretty clear targets, as well as building our first pod. It's gonna be really cool. And then we're gonna expand that pod. So for you guys that are sitting there going, dude, I got like 7 staff, how do I build out my future dream team? I got you covered there. Because the third thing we're gonna talk about is organizational chart building. So every single quarter inside of my agency, we would build out a 3-month organizational chart. So if the revenue was gonna go up, we would have to plan for the new roles that were gonna be inside of that organization. And we would just show the team every single quarter in our town halls what the vacant roles would look like, who can move to where, what the business needs to support this new revenue level. So these are the big three things: who to hire first, team profitability, setting those clear targets, and then we're going to talk about setting out an organizational chart. Okay, before we dive in, I want to set my rules when it comes to team building. So my first rule is that we build our team around roles, not people. The biggest mistake I see so many agency owners make is they've got this one individual who's like a wicked good strategist, or they're super skilled in some area, and they try to fit them into this like new version of the agency. And usually, if you're in my world, we're refining, streamlining, culling things, taking things out of the business to make it feel a little bit lighter, and then we can scale that because, you know, simple scales, fancy fails. And people are they struggle when they're making all those adjustments to get that one individual that's super skilled in this area, but they don't fit into like this new structure, new role of just the simplified version of the business. So what we want to do first is, as an agency, be super selfish and just plan out an organization that if we were to just be completely ruthless, strip everybody out of the business, we have to rebuild it again, what would the roles be? What would we need them to be? That's the way I think about it. And then we just try to fit the people into those roles. And then we want to explain to those people. I know some of you guys watching this going, oh man, this is freaking me right now because I got Derek and Derek's a total D and I don't know if I can fit him into this new version of the agency. Sometimes you might experience that where you've got a new role, new structure of the business, and then Derek doesn't want to play along, and then you have to make moves to remove them. Or hopefully you've got, you know, delightful Derek, and he is happy to see this new structure and see this new way of the business, and then move into the role that's going to help the business go forward because that's going to help him too. So that's point number one. Point number two is we hire for the sole purpose, especially at the beginning, to get time back. The whole goal of building out a team, just so you and me are clear, is that we need to get you out of delivery and we need to get you into growth deliverables and activities. So like making content, running ads, building landing pages, taking sales calls. That's really all you need to be doing if you want to grow. If you don't want to grow, don't do that stuff. If you love being a marketer and you love like doing all your branding and your PR and all your content creatives and everything, your shoots and making strategies for clients, cool, man. Just like keep doing that stuff. But it's going to be really hard for you to build a business, get it past 7 figures a year, if you don't move yourself out of some of those activities, at least like 50% plus, and move into more growth activity roles, because you're the only person that's going to grow your business. No one else will. Cool. So we want to hire to make sure we get time back so you can focus on growth activities for the business. And the third and final thing is that when you hire people, we want to be setting targets, and we want to make sure that we are profitable. So set targets, be profitable. Super, super important. So these are my rules. Let's get into building out our first pod structure. Okay, so let's have a look at how I would be building out a pod and some of the key roles that are involved inside of any given pod. When you're first building out your business, you're doing all of these roles, but then we start to, as we get bigger, we just start to silo into individual roles. Initially, when you're building up your agency, it's like hybrid roles, and then it really starts to get siloed when you get above 10 people. So 3 key roles. Again, you're probably doing all of these now, or maybe you've got some of these. If you have some of these and you have team members, then we're building out your first pod. So this is our revenue generating pod. This is really important to set and get some clear targets around costs. We're gonna talk about RUM, and then we're gonna talk about GPM. So I like to use a military example here. And there's 3 key roles that are broken down into our military pod. The first role is we've got our captain. So our captain is somebody that is setting forward the strategy to win the battle, win the war of scaling X business that you're serving, okay? Typically a captain is somebody that is really well versed in strategy. So this is commonly you, because you're building your agency off the back of your skill sets. If you're one of those agencies that like outsources everything and you're like a middleman agency, I don't recommend that version. I recommend building an agency off the back of what you're really good at doing, and then teaching other people your skill set, and then having like your own spice and flavor onto your service. Otherwise, it's not really that great of an agency, and you're not probably gonna make that big of an impact on people, and then it's gonna be really hard to grow that. Cool. So first thing about a captain is that they really do set a lot of the strategy, and they are doing a lot of the communications, okay? This is you. This is probably gonna be you for quite some time, up until the point where you set and reach a certain revenue goal. So that's the first role, the captain. The second role is the troop. This is your dude on the front lines with the freaking AK-47 spraying, you know, going absolutely nuts. This person is what we're going to consider the implementer. Okay, we don't send the captain out to the front lines to fight the war. That individual setting the direction. We have to hire a troop to be on the front lines and do a lot of the grit work, okay? So we're gonna talk about what this looks like in a sec. And then what we have is we've got our medic. And our medic is kind of this individual that goes around the team and like supports them where they need. And this is our administration person, okay? This is somebody that does a lot of the work and tasks that the troop or the captain doesn't want to do. Okay, so the big question is, who do I hire first? Do I hire onshore? Do I hire offshore? And what roles do I kind of replace myself out of initially? So I think that we can take this in stages. We can do this in 3 key stages. The first stage is you're kind of doing everything. And for some of you guys, you might be here. The second stage is second stage is we do offshore hiring. And offshore hiring is just simply done by buying some of your time back. So when you look at a medic, this is typically the person that I've always hired for first, because there's a lot of miscellaneous tasks, there's a lot of like just a bunch of random stuff that are massive time suck, and we do want to get ourselves out of it. So what we do is we go out and we hire a medic. It's an administration person, and the most common thing that people are doing nowadays, especially inside of our community, is they're hiring a VA. This is a virtual assistant. Now for me, I've always hired a VA, and then I have graduated them up to being an onshore person, which is our third step here, which is getting somebody in that can do the work in office or like sitting next to you. It's so case by case, depending on the type of person that you are. I'm a big energy person. I am like the worst person on Slack. I never respond to anybody. I need to like just come downstairs and then just speak to that one person. They tell me a bunch of stuff and then I can get them answers back, and I've got like these small windows. If you're anything like me, you know, it's really advantageous to hire an onshore team. If you can operate through Slack and like through Zoom, and that's totally, you know, fine as to how you work, go offshore. That's so sweet. So VA is usually for me the first person that I want to be hiring to get back a lot of the miscellaneous tasks. And eventually I want to have a plan to graduate this person onto onshore. Great. The second person that I want to be hiring is typically a troop. And like for me, I remember when I was building my team, I had Christy who came in as I hired an onshore person straight away, and it was Christy. And then I remember I brought Mark in as an intern, and Mark worked for like 5 months for free, like just did like 2 to 3 days a week. And then we finally got the business up to the point where we could employ him full time. And I know you're probably sitting there going, damn man, 5 months? Yeah, he was a freaking legend for doing it and was literally the best hire because he stayed with the agency for 6 years and later on became the head of growth. But I did it that way for my troop, which was I got in an intern. And this is a really good option for some of you guys if you are getting started and you have no budget like I did. Like I remember I was making like 10, 15 grand a month, and I was like hiring, I had Christy, and then I hired Mark, but it was for free. And then I was training Mark up and giving him the skill sets. And then I could later on, you know, once I got up to like 15, 20K, then I employed him part-time and then moved him to full-time. There's so many different ways that you can do this. And a really good activity that you can do is just on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, write out every single thing that you do. You know, set a 5-minute timer, just do 3 kind of columns like this. And then just write on a daily, weekly, and monthly. Just write out every single thing that you do, and then just highlight the stuff that you want to get rid of. It's super simple, it's super easy, and you'll find a lot of that stuff is the activities you're doing as the current troop inside of your agency. So you got intern, you got offshore. The other way that you can do this is you can hire onshore. And again, you'll see that the way that we're graduating, when we get up to this third phase, that's when we've started to really formalize this pod. And we want to get up to the third tier, this third grade of this pod structure, so that then we can start to repeat it. However you feel like, again, if you just want to stay in the second tier or the second grade and you stay offshore, that's totally your call. For me, I'm always going to encourage you to go onshore because I think that that's where you can do the best service quality and really drive a great impact for your client, and you'll have a really great time building your agency that way as well. Again, you know, this is just my perception of reality. It's totally up to you. Cool. So we've got captain, we've got medic, we've got troop, and hopefully we're going to start to bring a lot of these guys onshore. who do we hire first? Once again, we're probably gonna look to hire out our medic first to get us back some time. This is gonna be a VA and we just pass a bunch of tasks over to them. The second person that we want to look to hire is our troop, and this is somebody that's gonna be our implementer, and we can pass a lot of the tasks on to them. And we are, for quite a while, going to keep the role of the captain. I think a lot of us really look to get out of delivery very quickly. Like even in our community, we get people that are so excited to build the team and they get overly excited about not doing any work and just getting into content, just getting into ads, just getting into sales to grow. And they actually leave leading their clients to the wayside, and then they get hit with some serious churn. So we don't want to do that. We want to hold on to being a captain. We want to make sure that we do really great work for our clients up until the point where we hit our targets, and then we do our next move. Okay, one super important thing to do when you have this rough pod structure mapped out is that we set a cost base, and now we start setting some of the targets, okay? So let's just focus on the offshore stage that we're at. We're starting to build this first pod structure. If you have an onshore team, please feel free to increase the prices that I'm about to set, but I'm just gonna treat this like we have an offshore team and we have lower prices. So we're using offshore contractors for, like, let's say a media buyer and then a VA, and then it's you. And then as you start to grow the revenue of this pod, then you can start replacing these contractors and hire them onshore. Okay, so you've got three costs. Typically, if you're the captain and you're paying yourself a wage, I always try to keep my wage as low as possible. So I paid myself a 60K base salary plus super, and that rounded out to be about $5,000 a month. If you've got a mortgage and you've got to pay higher, that's so fine. Just bring your price up and it's just, more expensive. Let's say you got your troop and you got your medic. So for the troop, if I'm using an offshore media buyer, let's budget out for like 3K per month. If you have a really good troop and they're offshore and you're paying more for them, put your number in. I'm just saying what the average number typically is. And then you got your medic. I typically find that a good VA, you can get them for around, I think it's like $1,250 to $1,750 USD per hour is like a standard rate for a lot of these roles. And you just might want to get them on for like 6 hours per day, 4 days a week. You can do stuff like that. Structure however you want, whatever you can really afford. So what we've got is a total cost of this pod might be around 10K per month, okay? And what we want to do up the top here is we just want to set our cost base. So for this pod that we're trying to build, it's 10 grand, super, super simple. Now for me, for my pods, I always set and preset a gross profit margin. So the gross profit margin that I like to work off of for my team is 80%. If I'm making 100 grand in revenue, hopefully my team costs are 20 grand and I'm making $80,000 in gross profit. This is not excluding non-revenue generating roles like directors and usually medics, but we're going to expand this in a second. And it doesn't include your operating expenses as well. So 80% is usually the target that I like to set. If we can be honest with each other, you're probably not going to be hitting 80%. A lot of you guys are hitting like 60% gross profit margin. So let's just calculate it as 70% being our initial target that we want to get up to. Okay, cool. If my cost base is 10 grand and I want to have a 70% gross profit margin, my quick math is I want to have 10K divided by 1 minus 0.7, which equates to 0.3. So if I do $10,000 divided by 0.3, so 10,000 divided by 0.3, I don't know if that's focusing, but it should look like that. We go equals, it's saying $33,000, okay? So that is exactly what this metric RUM means, which stands for revenue under management. And I got this concept, the RUM abbreviation, from an individual called Simon Trafford. He runs Socialite, an incredible agency, 55 plus staff. We had him on a hot seat last year inside of our community, and he talked to us about setting RUM goals and then having incentives around it. It was such a great call. But we've since been using RUM. We previously had utilization rates and we still use that whole concept. But RUM is such a great terminology to have for how much revenue a pod should be managing. Okay, so we're gonna say at the top here, our RUM is $33,000. Our cost is gonna be $10,000, and then our GPM is gonna be 70. Now, the way to increase that is you've got two levers to pull. Just do more volume of work, so more clients, or lift your prices, okay? If we work backwards from this, we can actually set a total amount of clients that each pod should be managing. And this is where utilization rates come in. Without delving into that too much, basically all you have to do is divide this by your average client value. So if I divided 33,000 and my ACV, my average client value, so 33,000 divided by 2,500, let's say 2,500 is my ACV. That means that my total client portfolio is 13.2, so 13. Then you got to ask yourself, if I had myself, this troop, and this medic working in a pod structure, the 2 out of the 3 of us are offshore, could I manage 13 people doing what I'm doing now? The answer is no. Cool, you need to lift your prices to hit this target, this revenue target. If the answer is yes, because you can do the volume, awesome. You either lift your prices or you take deliverables out of your current packages. That's a whole other video, but I really hope that point did make sense. And if you do have any questions on the back of it, just let me know. In a rough way, this is kind of how I would be mapping out your targets, your revenue goals. And then as you do build up your team and you start to say to yourself, okay, cool, I want to graduate now from offshore to onshore, and I want to lift the prices of my troop, and I want to hire somebody for like 85K, and I'm bringing them in, and then their cost goes from $3,000 to 7.3K, and now my whole cost base is shot up. You might want to be setting a target for yourself to lift your ACV. So not your total, but just your ACV to lift that goal. And this is exactly what happened in my agency. I remember at one point we had like 45 clients in the agency and the average client value was 2,200. And we have a whole training about this inside of our community. We set a goal across 5 months to bring our ACV from 2,200 up to like 3.5, and we hit it. And then later on, we got it up to 4K, all by doing redesigning of packages. And we moved majority of our clients across, and anyone that didn't want to get moved across, we replaced them. So it's a whole thing to do there. But I hope that this is kind of like an easy breakdown of what your pod structure can look like, the graduation tactics across 3 different grades, and rough targets that you can set for your pods. Okay, great. Now we should have like a base revenue generating pod structure. What we want to do for you bigger guys is build that into a larger team structure that has 2, maybe even 3 pods. And we want to start to departmentalize the business out, okay? So what I've got in front of me is a really cool exercise that we have inside of our community. It's just one of the pages. And we're going to talk about the 3 different levels that are now getting departmentalized inside of your agency as you start to build out your 2nd pod, and this continues on with your 3rd pod and your 4th pod. And we've helped agencies scale all the way up to $500,000 months, and this thing gets friggin' massive, okay? But you need a lot more support on top and underneath to help the pod structure continue to deliver. So what we've got is 3 different levels now that are getting broken out. We've got our medics, we've got our troops again, but now we've got our generals. And what we're gonna do is firstly start off just with the troop section and show you where a lot of the money gets made. So what I've got is a very simple structure across my pod, and I've done a really great job in building my business. I've set my targets, and I'm looking to build the 2nd pod. Now, remember when we did this first initial pod, you were still here. You were still this individual. As you start to graduate and get bigger, what we want to do is hire an individual that does come in with great experience and can take that captain role off of you. That's usually somebody that's going to come in at like 85K plus to like 120, depending on how good they are.
What a lot of us need to do is we need to find this individual, someone that's like really good.
Yeah.
Usually we graduate this person because these guys are easy to find.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? So this guy is getting primed across the next 6 to 12 months to move up here, which is why we have like org structures of like different growth roles. So like the development and the hierarchy and how they can move up. You tell this guy that you have the ability to take my spot, and then I'm going to get somebody in under here. You find him, he moves in, and you become a general, which is the hog, head of growth.
What also might happen is you don't actually need like a siloed medic, you need another specialist. And usually, like a lot of agencies I'm seeing, they start to hire a creative strategist. So somebody that does a lot of the statics or video editing or whatever that might be. If you're an email agency, you've kind of got your Klaviyo technicians, and then you've got your like your graphic designers, and you've got your like your strategist and your comms person. There's so many different ways to structure this thing. So you've got your one strategist, your one pod to the left side, and then we want to start building the one pod to the right side. You might jump over here and then start to do this role. And then you start hiring out this individual, and you start hiring out this individual. And then all of a sudden, you know, you got your cost base, which is up here. You start building it back up, and then you go hire another individual to take over this role. That's kind of the goal. What we want to do then is we want to move you up into the first general position, which is to start overseeing both of the pods, which should hopefully, if you hire correctly here and here for your strategists, should hopefully take up like 30 to 50% of your time. Usually it's 50 at the start, and then it starts to come down to 30. And then hopefully 50 to 70% of your time goes toward revenue growth activities, business development, head of growth work, pushing the business forward. That's the kind of start for the first pod. We start to build out the second pod, and then hopefully when you get up to a certain revenue goal and you start to hit revenue targets, you move up into the general position. What we also have is these medics. Now, initially we had the medic here, but what does start to happen is that you don't really need that medic silo. That's like for your first starting pod. As you do start to build, like I said, you get these specialists that start to come in, and you get them a little bit more siloed and more specialized in service delivery. What we do is we move a medic down, and we bring a medic down the bottom here. And this is an administration person. We always had like a brand coordinator. And this is somebody that would help with, yes, the administration work, the miscellaneous work, small tasks that really do help the director or the general out. But they also help with now things like internal marketing. So certain posts, graphics, runouts, like gathering a bunch of different things, full content, they help with a bunch of different stuff. So I would then start to split out your medic role and start to hire a brand coordinator. Okay, cool. I'm really going like, you know, this is just what I typically see within agencies. I'm going super broad. I'm giving you as many examples as I possibly can. Hopefully it's making sense. And then you can take from what I'm saying and then maybe apply it to what you're doing. But let's talk about this. Let's say that we have a rough cost of $20,000 for the pod structure that we've got here, 20K. And we have said that $33,000 is what each of these pods should be hitting. That's our run. 33 times 2 is 67 grand, let's just say. The total ROI on 20K worth of costs and 67K worth of revenue is, I think I wrote it down here, 3.35 times return. So for 20 bucks, you're getting 3.35 times back, 67K. That's a really good return. I think a lot of the costs for a team, what you want is anywhere between like 2 to 3 times back what you're paying your team. So if your team costs you 50 grand, 2 times back is 100K, that's a 50% GPM, to 2.5 times, then you know that's 125,000, then you're making 2.25 times back. I think that was the rough math, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, cool. So that for a revenue generating pod here looks really good. But now let's do this. Let's factor in some of these other, now what we're going to call non-revenue generating roles into the equation. So let's say you've got a brand coordinator and they're on 60K a year. Okay, well now you've got somebody that's another 5K and their revenue is currently 0. So they're not bringing in anything and their ROI on this is 0, okay? Let's talk about you as a general. Let's say that you keep yourself on that 60K salary. Awesome, so you're going to be 5K a month. The revenue that you're managing is going to be 0. Hopefully, maybe. Again, so case by case. And then your ROI is gonna be 0. So now what we're gonna do is our total costs up the top are not 20K, it's 30. And for the total revenue, it's staying the same, which is 67. What's the total ROI based on this team? Well, the total ROI is 2.23 times. 2.23, I'm happy with that. That looks good. And you kind of want to crunch the numbers and play the numbers because sometimes people get so caught up in, oh, you know, I'm not making as much profit. Or dude, you'll get a bunch of people out there that will say, yeah, man, I'm making 70 to 80% net profit margin. I know all those guys. I work with a bunch of those guys. Those guys are anomaly cases, and oftentimes they've been around for years and years and years, built up their business, nailed it, and they have totally refined their system. When you're first getting started, don't expect to hit like epic margins. Expect to get good, drive great impact for your clients, lift up their average client value because you're doing great work, then refine out your team, have spent enough time in the business to learn how to refine it, not just learn it off somebody else and try to copy their shit. Learn how to refine your specific way of delivering work, and then you can get to those high margins. This is a really healthy business. An accounting rule of thumb is 50 to 60% gross profit margins is like a nice goal to hit, total team, and a third of your revenue, so 30%, should go towards your net profit, so what you should be walking away with. So if you're making 100 grand a month, hopefully you're walking away with 30K in net profit. Okay, cool. So this is a rough team structure. I really hope through this example, I'm giving you some food for thought, how to structure the team, what the costs can look like, and then what things kind of equal up the top right here. Okay, cool. Here's my top big secrets. And then we're gonna wind this video up, man. I really hope that this has been helpful for you. And if it has, just leave me a like and a comment. It means a lot and encourages us to keep doing these every single week. My big secret is number one, hire before you're ready. Like I was saying before, this stuff is never gonna look good inside of your P&L when you first hire that individual. Your costs are gonna go higher, your margins are gonna come down to like 10% net. Sometimes even my margins have been less than that because I just wanted to hire this individual. Who gives a shit? It's not about how it looks now, it's about how it's gonna look in 3, 6, 9, 12 months into the future. If you continue to hire, keep these activities and not hire out, you will continue to stay at the same level you're at, and you're just waiting for churn rate to come and eat you up. So hire before you're ready. Who gives a shit about how the margins look month by month? It's over a year, and then what you need to get up to in terms of targets, okay? Number two, I kind of just touched on this, but don't wait. I think the biggest thing that kills a lot of people's growth is that they are waiting for something. I don't know what people are waiting for half the time. They aren't doing anything with acquisition. Please go watch some of my old videos and start learning how to run ads, like my last couple of videos over the last couple of weeks. Learn how to run ads so that you get confidence in hiring. If you have an acquisition strategy built into the business and you start to see that you're getting leads coming in, calls getting booked, and you're closing clients off the back of it, that should give you the confidence to say, oh man, I need to like get out of this role of doing all this delivery, hire somebody else, and then go into all the head of growth stuff to continue to build on the business and its own growth. Don't wait. Even if you haven't figured that part out, get out of current delivery so that you can free up your time to learn those things. That's super important. And then the third thing is when you do hire a team, I always say team is like the best and the worst thing about your agency. They are like the light of your life and they make everything that you do so much more fun. But if they are shit and you get people in that like kind of suck, they can make it just feel like it's the worst. So if you do hire anybody, the classic saying, which is hire slow, fire fast. Hire slow. Trust your intuition. Grill people, test people. And if they do give you a good sense, just have a 3 to 6 month probation period. If they make it past that, then awesome. They're like the perfect cat for you. If they're not, get rid of their ass. People are very emotional, and I don't blame you for being, especially if you're not used to firing people. They'll hold on to people because they just feel like, well, they just haven't really been a business owner for that long. So they don't know that, hey, if someone's a total dick, you need to get rid of their ass. Because it doesn't just drag down like the business, it drags down you, and you are spearheading this business and the front runner for everything momentum-wise. So if you do ever find somebody that you have hired and you've made this decision to build out this pod structure and you're going after your strategist, you're going after your media buyer, don't expect them to be perfect. Expect them not to be perfect, and expect for yourself to remove them quickly. Guys, that's kind of today's video. I really hope that you got some value out of it. And like I said before, if you did, please drop a comment as to what you enjoyed about this video, what you would like to learn about next. Any questions, I always respond inside of the comments. So let me know any kind of questions and I'll give you back some feedback and some answers. Other than that, hope you have an amazing day, whatever day it is that you're watching this video, and I'll see you next week.